walang ginagawa kundi nasa bahay. Pare kulang na lang magdig ako ng garden.
Plantito. Usong-uso ngayon eh. I love it though. Like I have a friend, he's also into organic farming and fertilizer. He calls it the fertilizers, kasi plural, of Manila effect. People don't realize that they're actually helping the environment by getting all these plants in their condos, their houses. So a lot of them do it for show, but at least the net effect is positive.
Well, you know what I noticed is people stop having lawns sa loob ng bahay nila, and they're starting to, like, I'm thinking of digging up my garden, which was previously used for, get-togethers, barbecues, and just planting mais just for fun. wala namang mangyayari in 1 year or 2 seasons, no? Children of the Corn, because my greatest movie fear. So this one talaga, pare, I can overcome my fear that there's no people in the corn.
Invite me, pare. Hanapin natin sila. Hanapin natin.
I was at this Mind Museum every year for this Makers Fair, which I really miss. It was super fun. Like, getting kids to actually build something which they've lost all knowledge except to.
Yeah, for sure.
I told Snap, these kids don't know what a greenhouse looks like. Kasi most of the houses, they're unattainable. They're inside green villages or they're inside corporate. Just like, AC solar, AC energy, nobody can go in there except mga high-powered executives. Pero I said, why don't we, my dream is to build a combi, and put solar on it and, make it all run on LED and then put a windmill on it. And crazy guy, Snap, goes to his boss and says, you know what? I mean, if somebody told me that, Snap, I have a combi and I'd like to solarize it and I want to make it, I want to have a rainwater harvesting system on the top. But I wouldn't have believed him. Pero anyway,
we managed to pull it off. We
did. It's amazing. It took international news. I mean, it has what's that? 600 watts of flexible solar on it. Snap actually, was on the roof. Like basically convincing his guys who have never gone on top of an auto roof that this was the future. You know what? One day it's all autos. Of course, we know that, right? But Snap was saying, one day all autos will have its own self-charging station. And the guys were just looking like, sir, all we know is the big, kahuna of, large houses with solar. And this guy was like, no, it will shrink and it'll become more efficient. And I'm just looking at him like, yeah, this guy's passionate. This guy's passionate.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I'll remember that forever, man. It's just like
me too. The pics, like when we took it apart. Remember when we first took it apart? We were like, "Oh man, we got our work cut out for us." And then he was like, "We have a little less than 2 weeks, like 10 days, I think, something like it's like 8
from our launch." It looked. I wish we took more videos, man. It's like really. It has its own windmill. It's been covered by James Deacon. It's like it and then there's this international ones that are covering it. But started with a mad conversation, and he just like went beeline to his boss and says, "Let's do it." And I'm like, Jesus, I'm gonna have to like really pull this out through because this guy threw his Anyway, sorry, just good times, man.
Oh, that's cool.
When you're under COVID, you start talking to yourself. So I'm just glad that I have friends out there.
So what's been happening? Like, what have you been doing during this COVID? Like, any hobbies that you've been doing or new things that you've been exploring?
I'm a lover of Volkswagens. I have the oldest one here, and so I've been like basically. I'm analog. Deep inside, my mind thinks in working with my hands. That humility of working with your hands and painting. I need to work with my hands. I can't do Netflix. It's just, I mean, I need to move, I need to think, I need to tinker with stuff. And so I've been dismantling engines and putting them back together.
So it's interesting.
Then I have a 1952 Volkswagen, which I basically unscrewed the whole engine, which is an 1100. It's like really, really old. And I just basically put it all back together again. So it's been interesting. And I have this Nissan Safari, and I've basically took out as many screws as possible and replaced them with stainless steel. So
wow,
it's a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, it's improved, because when I was young, I would just dismantle it and leave it. So I've improved over time.
Nice.
I put it back together better.
So you've always been interested in these things since you were a kid, like working on with your hands.
So what happened was, I'm a lonely child, the firstborn, and most of my friends are in Makati or in Quezon City, and my parents couldn't bring me there when I was younger. They were putting up their businesses, starting out, and so what I would do is I would have no holds barred, right? I would just go out into the street outside, and I live in a mixed neighborhood of Pasay. And my parents don't have this, word this and there's that. I mean, and so I there's this low income neighborhood. I don't want to use the word shanty, but low income neighborhood. And the children, their fathers were, machine shop owners. They were, upholstery. It's a very blue collar, but very skilled neighborhood. And not only would I play games, of course, that's why in basketball I was very rough. I would in grade school they were saying, "Why are you making sicko my face?" I was like, "Isn't that how you play? Isn't that how you play basketball?" Anyway, so I not only played the games on the street, but I actually, went to work with them. And, what would seem like a game, they were actually working or apprenticing for their father. And so I learned how to, work with my hands in machine shops. I learned how to, do simple upholstery. They were my teachers as I grew up. I learned how to be very confident with my hands. I wish that, I grew up in a neighborhood with DI dancers. Then I would have learned how to also use my feet. pero nandun na ako sa
mas okay na mechanical pare. Mas okay na mechanical.
Yeah, man. That's useful. But that's so cool. So how did it evolve from there?
From there, I started building things. One of the first earthen constructions in the country. So I've done about 50 schools built by rammed earth, what stabilized earth. So you put them in sacks. I studied under Nadhir Khalili. Later on, went to MIT and was one of the first students for the development laboratory, which is now doing international technology transfers. It was just love of technology, love working, climbing. I love the technicality of doing things that are with computation. And now it's sort of manifested itself in building technologies that have impact in the country and around the world. Of course, my friends here at the corner, I started doing like pedal washing machine, where instead of having to wash with your hands, I started building stuff for women that work for washing clothes per basket. Started having pedaling. Of course, they had great legs, so I don't know if that erased the population there. But anyway, next thing I did is attach it to a windmill. So when there's good wind, we live by the bay. There's a gear. Of course, it won't go faster than a certain ratio. They just put in their clothes. So it's like a revolving drum. Solar lights. The first plastic bottles that I put in the roof that allow refracted light to light up the corridors were there. later on, like water purifying machines. So they were my test laboratory.
Wow.
Because I couldn't put a hole in my house, right? So,
Yeah.
so so when that one worked, especially solar lights, solar street lights, putting refrigerators out of my house so that any excess food that we didn't eat, not the cooked one, the raw one. Let's say we had extra, we had extra potable water that we were able to get from, how do you call it? We have this water filtration system we would put outside so people can get fresh water. So I tried to use technologies that could not only benefit, so successful in my house, but also bring success to others. And later on, this became my career, which I do Litter of Light. I'm a UNESCO ambassador for Asia. And we teach how to build solar lights, mobile chargers, street lights, all around Asia and all around the world. So I have 32 offices, 1,200. They used to be staff, and now they're on hold because of COVID.
Yeah.
Our income used to be very strong, which we used to go inside corporations like Gawad Kalinga. The corporations buys the material. We charge them for the experience of building the solar lights. And then what happens is we also charge them for going to the communities, installing them. And so we would do 1 million workshops a year. Wow. So it was the first global Filipino, one of the first global Filipino, not only advocacy, but real technology transfer. That's how we grew. With COVID, no corporation. So from doing like 300,000 or even 100,000, a month, basically we didn't even do like 50 a week. So it was like, wow. So it really crashed. It really crashed and burned. Yeah. All corporation canceled its contract. And then I was watching Netflix, and I was watching this Pay It Forward, where the guy basically did something good and then asked for other people to do something good.
Yeah, I remember.
And then those people scaled it, and so that was the start of the Light It Forward, where we started challenging people to build the lights, solar lights by hand, but the parts are buildable by a screwdriver.
I soldered one myself outside Mind Museum. It was quite an experience. Like it was fun.
Well, now it's screwdriver. It's a screwdriver, so that we don't have to have soldering.
Yeah, assembly na lang.
Yeah, you were fast, man. You were fast.
Thank you. I had a bit of practice in Dipolog. Remember when I made my perimeter lighting system for the house?
But Illac, I'm curious about I guess this whole journey of getting it. I mean, you said a while ago that you were you basically had no concept of the hierarchy where you were living growing up, and that seemed to influence you a lot in helping the community. How was that progressed? Like now we're facing a pandemic, and at the same time, a lot of people need help as well. Are there any ideas that have come up, or challenges that you want to be able to address during this time?
Well, we are the Filipino representative to the World Expo in 2021. And basically, out of 7,000 entries, we were the 100 chosen by the Expo to have, the change-making story. And so the problem is, we're stuck in a pandemic, the longest lockdown, while all the other 100 or all the other 999, if you want to call it, are mostly free to be able to continue their campaign. So each one is given $100,000. And just like the parable of seeds, who makes the best story out of it? And so right now, while others are doing, travels and they're able to participate with their community because NGOs really are engaged. We're good at engaging communities. The Philippine version is we're locked at home. So how do you create a global movement or a global story being locked from home? So that one's a challenge. Things that we're working on is really Litter of Light was not supposed to be light. What it was supposed to do is to create businesses for low-income communities like villages, where the women could build, repair, and scale the solar lights without us. Basically, instead of just selling candies in the sari-sari store in the villages as their main income, or weaving when there's no tourists, or let's say beads, we wanted to teach them how to make solar lights because 35% of their expenses were in kerosene or fuel. And so we wanted to replace that with solar. And so they would have, let's say, 100 solar panels, keep it to themselves. And then for 50 pesos or less, depending on where this village is, they would be able to recharge the lights as many times as they want. Everything here can be changed with, this can be changed with vape batteries, motorcycle 12-volt batteries, LED plastic bottle, of course. And they would be able to have this large rental system where they start earning. Of course, when they earn, they can buy more solar lights and then fix it. That's important, fix it. And then if you need mobile charging, you can go to them and you can charge your phone. And at the same time, street lights. So you could, if you have a street and most of your neighbors, just like Meralco, wanted to light up the street, you can rent street lights or solar street lights. But the important thing there is you must be able to fix it.
Yeah, service support is really crucial.
Yeah, no, some of these villages takes 7-8 rivers to get to, and so we created that. But it was really more than light. What we wanted to do was knowledge, and people might think, why is a grassroots solar talking about knowledge and education? Well, we believe that once the street lights are up, we can create mesh networks among the street lights that are maintained by the women, and the solar and the cell phones that are not being used because they don't have any connections are still being used by the women as an educational tool. So we have now raw software where a woman from the other side of the village can connect with another woman on the other side of the village, creating knowledge, conversation, ideas. If this thing goes well, we would have a hub where we'll be keeping the basic knowledge and information where mothers can download educational materials just like we download educational materials from Zoom or from YouTube. So before thinking how to be able to bring education to the remote villages, we were thinking, how do you create a stable power infrastructure? It's a little bit more long-ranging than just giving light, but it's really about enlightenment. We believe with Raspberry Pis and the low power that it's needed, you can put computers that will be able to store energy and information in these villages. Why was this possible? It's because books cannot be long term in this kind of wet, damp villages. Books actually disintegrate, and so women are now using cell phones and stored information in cell phones, pictures, to be able to educate their children. And I want to be able to use that observation and enhance it. But you cannot do that without a stable power network. And I don't really believe in philanthropic because afterward it burns out.
Yeah.
The second one is to create a business model where they're earning from the solar. They become this micro solar rental system or solar cooperative, and then build the mesh network on top of that. So that's how I think that I will be able to contribute to education in the most rural areas. So light is great. Enlightenment is the legacy.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yes. I love the whole enlightenment is the legacy. And like, what are there any models like around the world that inspire you, that are doing maybe something similar to what you're planning to do for these communities?
Yeah, there are some very expensive ones. So there's the first world one where they really put, a really big, expensive, mesh network. But all of this is factory made chips. I mean, it's based on just handing it out. But I'm just really thinking about one day, how can people just, or other NGOs, pull out the parts from available, off the shelves, and copy what I'm doing. So it's really important to do two things. One is that the women are displacing dirty fuel with an income generating green job, right? Which is renting out solar lights, mobile chargers, street lights. The money does not go out of the villages, because every time you buy kerosene, it goes up. The money that is earned, the cash flow, what is called the cash flow, is drained from the village. And at 35%, it's pretty big. Second is health. So the other drain is when you start, burning this kerosene in the house, people get sick. And so once again, the money has to go out of the village. So green technologies for me, and the advent of really cheap computers like the Raspberry Pis is very exciting for me. The fact that solar can be built and maintained by these women in the villages reliably is very exciting for me, and so that is the future for us. The other hand also is, I love the fact that we're teaching thousands of corporates to do it, because somehow most of them don't really live in Manila, or they've come to Manila first generation from the provinces, but they also go back to their provinces. And so when they learn how to build solar lights here in a CSR, a lot of them, when they go back, they also contact us and ask if they can bring kits back to the provinces. And so these are being replicated not in NGO terms, but as private initiatives in the backyard. So people are copying us in the backyard, making streetlights for their villages, and renting and selling them and renting them out. It's as I said, having open source has its ups and downs, but there's enough for everybody. It's when you start thinking that this knowledge is something that only you can profit from. That's when it starts dying. Because you being in the middle of everything, you to create change, I think is the most short-sighted of all. The most exciting is when you start making yourself obsolete. Suddenly you realize that there are more opportunities for you to grow while leaving a very self-sustained community to copy you. I could keep on doing this. I mean, you're talking about 20 million Filipinos. So I can keep on giving away technology for the rest of my, maybe 20 lives or 30 lives, but I wouldn't have made a dent. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
besides bugging, besides bugging Snap to make this solar-powered mobile vehicles, but that's a hobby.
That's fun. That's fun for us. Dude, remember when we pushed it into, what was it, Aura? We had to bring it into the elevator, and then, dude, we brought it in through the back and then brought it into an elevator. There's a big elevator that goes all the way to the area where the top, the second floor. Yeah. And then we put it right by the entrance of an event for, I think it was it was DRRMC, Disaster Risk Reduction Management.
Yeah. No, that van, when they say that an NGO is actually not a career, like a NGO makes you poorer. Actually, you know what? It misses a lot of points, which is not only the experience, but the more you're giving, the more adventures you have, and the more people give you opportunities. And so Steven Spielberg is doing a documentary on Liter of Light, And so he's done the first 3-minuter of us in Kenya, lighting up the Maasai tribes and in the middle of the Amazon. And I'm thinking, I would have never been able to do this, a boy from the Pacific Islands. But it's meeting you, getting to do this thing. I mean, it's really an exciting life. Last year, can't believe we did 100 days around the world on a ship,
Wow.
teaching 19 countries how to make solar lights. It's just almost impossible to think about now in the COVID situation. But we drove across the United States where we had lists of schools that wanted to learn how to make solar lights. So it's really expansive and not the only thing there is really Filipinos don't really think that Filipinos can change the world. We're not supposed to be global humanitarians, but it's when you start pushing technologies like this that you realize that Philippines is a darling, that we have so many good ideas, and mine is that probably the cheapest, a plastic bottle boy, but the world is ready to accept Filipino ideas in clean energy and new technologies. It's just we just don't believe in it, but it's true.
I totally.
And it's the best time to do it. It's the best time to do it now, right? I mean, the transition, and I mean, given what you mentioned, it might be good to look into something more domestic since we can't really get onto planes right now. So I've been meeting a lot with the Aita people of Zambales, the indigenous people over there. Have you met Raf Junicio, Illac? Mad Travel, and so he actually works. Yeah, he works with them quite a bit, and he also worked with GK, I think. He actually helped them create plans for livelihood and, of course, sustainability by planting more trees and all of that, and bringing their stories to Manila. For example, he was able to bring a chieftain to British School of Manila and share his story with the kids over there. So Nikki and I were asking him, why didn't we experience anything remotely close to that in that high school we went to, Nikki?
Yeah, don't say what it is na lang. It's better to keep it.
as if our friends don't know, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No,
okay. It's so interesting because now, like, I have a brother who's still in college, and he goes to Ateneo, and their ideas they have radical ideas, but for some reason when I sort of eavesdrop into their conversations, I haven't heard an idea about that's going to help the country or help people. It's always sort of centered into, I want to make a business, I want to make a lot of money. And I know that but parang for me it's like they are the future too. I'm hoping they have probably the brightest minds as well. And if they just channel their energy and realize that it isn't just about money, it's about fulfillment, about purpose, expansion, that actually gives you that sense of well-being, diba?
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, we can't force it on them.
We can't. But it's just a frustration lang. Because we are.
Let's put it into numbers, right?
Okay.
What if 90% of the best minds in schools are looking to make money by serving the richest 10%? What if the brightest minds, which what you're talking about, right,
yeah.
Nick?
Yeah.
Right? I would like to make a better car to sell to somebody who already has a great life or a great car. Or I would love to build the next generation house for this really rich person who already has like 2 houses, which he will sell so he can upgrade into a better house. So that's what the educational system is doing.
Yeah.
It's educating young people to use their brilliance specifically for people that already have the highest quality of living in the country.
Yeah.
Why isn't the thoughts extending to By the way, can I lend my skills and my knowledge to people who would otherwise be unable to hire my services? So imagine having the most brilliant guy working for the most brilliant, payable, the company that pays. And this one, he uses his mind also to help people that otherwise have a campaign which makes life more equitable. So I think, maybe it's a phases, but there's also the other number, which is if you don't capture them when they're young, when they're in the 12, 13, there are times they reach 21, 22. That kind of narrative in their head is difficult to change.
Yeah.
If they have been thinking about only becoming wealthy without looking at their employees, without looking at society, and the worst off is impacting the environment. If the knowledge, if their sense of knowledge about their impact on the world is not broad enough in their leadership to think about not only themselves, but their employees, society at large, and the environment, more expansive. It has to be, we have to think about that our company does not destroy the environment. Our company does not make life so inequitable that we create a social revolution, that, the employees are not going to be just thrown away. That is needed. Before, nobody really wanted to think about anything else except profit, and look at the mess that we're in.
Yeah,
we have rivers that are polluted. We have so many people that are in, part-time. We have I think one of the, what do you call that? Endo or something? Contract. But so that kind of leadership that is so short-minded.
Yeah, the contractual.
If we don't expand it, it creates longer-term cycles of damages that we're discovering here in the Philippines, especially because the laws favor the people that have money or can steal money without recourse. Sorry,
that's very well articulated.
The deep cycle of teaching young minds, most of our students, to only cater to the richest is not exactly the right formula for a country that has already proven that this formula creates, and usually this is balanced out by a government which is supposed to be the shelter for those that are not addressed. But what happens if the government even thinks about their role in government to serve those that are already the richest, right? So it's a slippery slope to talk about.
It's a slippery slope, 100%.
Yeah. But it definitely, what you're saying is definitely what is widening the gap between, the gap of income inequality and, of course, resources. So what you're saying totally makes sense to me. I'm sure it makes sense to Nikki too, right?
100%.
We kind of have a shared mindset regarding this topic, and I think that's why Illac and I really get along, because it's a vibe, it's a wavelength, and the more people that we can get on this wavelength, I think the faster we'll progress as a country, faster we'll be able to really create an identity for our nation.
Yeah,
and I mean that's the only way we're able to grow together, right? It's not just the haves and have-nots. Like you said, there shouldn't even be a label.
Yeah.
Because it's 2020. I mean, come on. Right?
To tell you the truth, there's already beautiful laws and everything, but the system itself, there's a great generational loss. I mean, during the Marcos period, where all of these great minds were put in jail or killed, because those were the brilliant minds that could have been leaders of this generation. I mean, to kill that many, you're talking of tens of thousands. Those that survive, the intrinsic fear not to be able to think creatively, that your ideas in government, your ideas in science, your ideas in education could flourish one day. Even if you have developed the latest COVID testing in UP and the government just doesn't want to buy it and they just want to import it. So, I mean, it's just, when
it's another country,
another countries support their own industry, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to be a young person in this generation. I'm just glad that I enjoyed the 80s, right? So,
you just gave away your age. Pare, people would think magkaka-age lang tayo. You look young, man.
You do, man. You do.
Since there's no Facebook, it doesn't exist. So, anything that we shouldn't have done doesn't exist.
That's true.
It's wiped out.
Now everything is recorded. Are you hopeful though, Illac, for the Philippines? Like, and I guess, even with these harsh realities, like, what are you hopeful for in terms of technology and?
I always say, our greatest curse is that we're so rich. The country is so rich. The people, the resources. So since we're a democracy, my hope is that it slowly starts allocating its resources to be able to build the people, build the businesses, build it back. So, that this will create a better way to do things. I think we're very resilient. Hopefully AI starts being put in election materials, blockchain. I think there is this kind of new discoveries. It will be delayed by the next generation because, of course, wanting to keep power that is not really theirs.
Mm-hmm.
When I say not theirs is that they were not elected properly or they used information media to be able to skew, the right choice. But democracy is young. And so I really, these are all long-term plays. But there are clean energy companies coming out. There's battery storage. As I said, there's blockchain companies. So there are the ways and means to be able to have a democratic, more equitable society. And people will figure it out. I'm just hoping that, other countries won't keep on pulling the bright Filipinos out because we really have the best resources.
Brain drain, but that's what they called it.
Well, or brain drain, or we just, this could have all been avoided. There were so many smart people doing the right things, except that they did not have the power to be able to influence people that were holding the levers. I mean, it's just a pity that it wasn't implemented properly because we could have avoided all of this. All of this that happened. The problems we have is really appointment. People that are just appointed into government, they're not really trained to be able to handle scenarios like this. They come out of small NGOs and they're put into head of businesses, and they're as I said, exchanged for favors. But when it comes to really big calamities, they have no capacity to lead. They're still learning the ropes from courses online, but the best people are not actually the people that are career, that know what they're doing. They're not appointed to higher position. So it's just there's certain parts of this democracy that it's really a pity. It's really a pity because, as I said, we're so rich in thought. We're so rich in resources. My gosh, we were, I said, we were ahead of the whole Asia. What happened?
Yeah, industrialization was supposed to happen here first, but then we kept hitting those road bumps, as you said, and maybe some levers may have been pulled also along the way. So that's one of the challenges, which is why we tread lightly, right, my friend?
That's why I speak in prose, right? I love
it. I love it.
But I mean, ever since our first president, who was not actually our first president, it was I think if Bonifacio was able to continue.
I was reading about that actually. If Bonifacio was the one, he would have started the real revolution. Not some
He did.
Yeah, I mean, we got
in the end. Yeah, a lever was pulled.
Yeah, he was killed, right? I mean, Emilio Aguinaldo basically was walking around with ivory and silver, a stick. He was suddenly, he sold us out. He killed as I said, we always tend to kill the people that are the most likely to lead us into a better situation, just because the person that's leading does not agree and wants to maintain the status quo. Sorry, I'm a public administration graduate, so what else do I do but think about it? But
conversations we like.
These are conversations we like, and especially looking back at history, at the patterns we keep repeating. And it's funny. I was just reading this article that was related to the Spanish colonization naman. And they were saying that, I mean, this is from the perspective of one historian. So it is, I don't remember, but he was basically saying that you can't blame the Spanish completely, because a lot of the Datus as well were very complicit in the deals. They were selling out people left and right as well. And I think that's also coming into play with the way things are happening now and what's been happening for the past hundreds of years, diba? Like, it's always, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to keep this going. I'm not going to think of what's best for the, for the people, just what's best for me. I want to maintain this thing. And I mean, I can't wait till the vicious cycle ends. And I keep telling Snap, do we need a revolution? A real revolution, but we have to tread gently then, especially in this time. Everyone's so connected. People are listening, watching,
Gives me a certain kind of reflection. When you think that next year is when Magellan first discovered the Philippines 500 years ago. I mean, this guy was lost out in the Pacific, hungry, probably with scurvy, probably the people next to mutiny for, not only, that 100 days around the world. I actually went through the passage of Magellan on the southernmost tip of South America. And I tell you, I don't know how that guy went through. They had a map and they said, every ship that you see in red is a ship that sank. And I tell you, it looked like an ant farm on the Straits of Magellan. It's so treacherous because the wind from the Atlantic, the wind from the Pacific, and the wind from the South Pole hits it. And so it's super violent. And, just incredible winds. Anyway, the point is, they cross the Pacific and they land in the Philippines. And at the same time, they said, look, we're hungry. Can we have some food? And once they gain their strength, they start creating ruckus. So 500 years ago, they start
putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Well, they were able to perfect through South America. They were able to perfect the friendly, but at the same time, once I grow strong enough and know how you work, we will use your people against yourselves because we're just few, right? So they perfected that technique in South America, and they decided to bring it to the Philippines. This kind of blood compact, but at the same time, now we'll promise you our culture and our strength, but at the same time, hey, my enemy will be your enemy, right? So we'll conquer this, and we'll give you a higher position. When Columbus landed in the Bahamas, he basically wiped out everybody through disease and slavery, and but when he first arrived, they gave him shelter, they gave him food. So watch out who you bring into your house.
For sure.
Anyway, my point is this: 500 years ago, we the natives that were conquered by this brilliant navigator called Magellan. So it's the same thing that natives in America started rebelling and tearing down statues of Columbus, who discovered America, right? Because they said, wait a minute, you came in and you massacred maybe 15 million Native Americans. Same thing with Magellan. He must have massacred maybe 5 million Filipinos. Who knows? Enslaved the nation. There is a law. Which is a quirky law. Sorry, I'm a trivial pursuit kind of. But it's called the conqueror's law. I mean, that's the slang, right? When a white man touches an unknown landmass, everything that he steps on, that whole place becomes his. Conqueror's rule. And the natives becomes betrothed or enslaved or under his. So even in Native America, if you really look back at the person that sold this land, that sold that one, took over Indian's land, it is written by the person that conquered that all that land is actually now his. So it's when you look back and you start thinking like, how did we get into all of this? You have the Spanish that were the great destroyers of the Inca, of the Aztecs. Yeah. I mean, they perfected the art of inclusion and destruction, the art of germ warfare, the art of steel, the art of pacification by cross. And so when you talk about the Spanish, it reverberates inside me, because 500 years ago, next year, we'll be looked at as the conquered people who were so pacifist, who were so welcoming, that up to today, we're taken for a ride, maybe now by China. So, it's just, I think when you say revolution, I think that I look at cultures and I look at the American culture of football and how they are aggressive and want to kill each other on the field. And I look at rugby, and I look at all these things where people have been at war for many years. And I look at all the pacifist countries that, have always been too open. And I see how that one has, they've lost their culture. They've been taken over. And so, to live at peace, you should be ready for defending. So I don't call it a revolution, but I call it that, we should know when the peaceful guest is going to be the dangerous, we have to have laws that work. That's what I'm trying to say. We have to have a way to be able to defend our fishermen. I don't know, simple as that. Because in the simplest of things, we have to have laws where when foreign countries bribe our officials, that we should be able to make them accountable, because wealth is finite. I mean, the wealth of like Nauru that exploited all its phosphate, and from the richest island became poor. Once you become poor, countries are going to leave you, and you're going to be left to yourselves. And so while we talk about the richness of the Philippines, I always talk about how much of that is being kept here to develop our country. So those are the things that are in my head. And when you become poor, it's as if you personally become poor and your friends leave you. Well, not all, but what I'm saying is, I don't think we're going to have friends if we were not so rich. So we have to make sure that, we use our wealth, we use our knowledge to make a stable country. I mean, that's where I hope our democracy will go, and not, the exploitation of all of this without realizing the long-term repercussions. Because the rich will always be able to move. Trust me. They'll always be able to survive.
Coronavirus. It's not worth another 500 years, people.
Yeah.
I think that's what Illac is saying. Let's not wait another 500 years.
Yeah, come on. Let's learn the lesson, man. Learn the lesson.
Yeah. The pattern repeats itself until you learn the lesson.
Exactly.
This is a 500-year loop, guys. That's why when you said Spanish, I mean, sorry I rambled, but
No. That was a great. That was a great ramble. That was a great ramble.
Good.
this is a 500 freaking year loop, and we're not out of it. And so the worst thing there is just the fact that Magellan will be the hero, and we haven't learned our lesson. You're still the squabbling natives
fighting against each other, right?
Yeah.
But that's why with the Light It Forward, I'm hoping to at least come out with a successful global story. I want to be able to teach 6,000 people how to make solar lights from their home and build the largest solar flag. I already hold the world record for the largest sustainability lesson, and I want to build a huge ass solar flag of 6,000. And then I want to ask Pal to fly over and bring another 6,000 to, let's say, Los Angeles, where Filipinos are, and in Rome. And they will keep on building solar lights, and I'll be able to make huge artworks out of it before donating it. I'm trying to figure out a way through Light It Forward where people can come together. That's what it is. Light is secondary, but it's a great way for me to be able to bring Filipinos together, especially Filipinos whose greatest asset is to be able to sink into societies to the point of not being segregated.
Yeah.
So we're so good in our language, in our skill, in our corny jokes maybe, that we can easily assimilate
Yeah.
to the point that, we're not even clustered anymore into, we had Philippine town in LA, but now no need because all the Filipinos are now so assimilated. Another tidbit of information. Sorry, am I talking too much?
You're good, man. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
This is what we like.
Do you know another important thing about revolution? Sorry, you triggered a couple of things in my head.
Go ahead.
The first labor union in the United States, although attributed to Mexicans, was actually started by Filipinos, like grape farmers. They
No way.
unionized the agricultural sector, which later became the largest labor union in the United States. So they started it, and then they brought in Mexicans, and from Mexicans they brought in Americans, and it became the labor union of the United States. And that was started by Filipinos.
That's amazing.
So there's just this amazing stories of how Filipinos are doing great things around the world. And I'm thinking somehow with the light, or challenging people to do lights in the thousands in these cities around the world, somehow we can we can make them shine somehow. So I'm still working that out. I have a year before the World Expo. That's my expo project. How do I bring thousands of lights built by Filipino hands, or Filipinos teaching other people, and they all cluster together in this world records around the world, like points of light. Anyway, so it's a bit confusing for me now, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I have a suggestion, Illac. Di ba hindi pwede mag-travel ngayon? I mean, outside the country for a bit. I think we've all accepted that reality for now. So given that, imagine your idea of thousands of lights, trying to do it with IPs. If you could get different groups of IPs from Cordillera, from Zambales, from Visayas and Mindanao as well, and somehow package it in a way that we share the Filipinos' light through indigenous people all over the world. And then you can sell it online. And it comes with like a picture of the IP tribe that made it, maybe. And that way, it kind of, I don't know, this is just an idea I'm throwing out.
No.
I think it's something you might want to just tinker around with in your head for a bit. It might
Yeah.
Turn into something.
Remember that we're not allowed to fly, but then I can send over kits. So right now, if you look at the Lit flight, the IG,
Mhm.
we sent out the kits to 150 artists. Anyway, 100 of them, and they're now building solar lights by hand and then posting it. So anybody anywhere can build it. So what we wanted to do is send a package of the kit without us, and give it to Filipino groups to be able to come together. Now I'm thinking of the IP, so I can send out this 6,000 around the world, right? In
Mhm.
even the design, we're now figuring it out, a knockdown kind of design. And so yeah, we're thinking how 6,000 from each city will be able to put it together. So back to the Magellan. This is my reverse
Okay.
Magellan. This is
Go.
sort of like the Filipinos have conquered the world rather than in April that you conquered the world. So
Yeah.
so that's what I'm trying to do. But I like the IP one because it's
Okay, go
interesting. But right now, kind of changed suddenly with the corona, and I'm thinking about the thousands of deaths of Filipino healthcare workers that died in silence, that died without relatives, because the Filipinos are one of the largest exports in the world, right? The nurses. And so I'm thinking
Biggest contributor to GDP.
maybe it should be a commemorative for Filipinos around the world that we're underappreciated for helping out countries where we're caring for corona. So maybe I might make it contemporary. I'm still weaving, but at the same time, of course, at the end, it helps the IPs. So yeah, snap. At the end, it has to help the poorest, right? Can't be
Yeah.
just symbolic.
Yeah,
Sure.
this because that way it gets their story out there. It's really a reverse Magellan, like you said. It's instead of the white man coming to conquer the local natives, it's the local natives trying to share their light with the rest of the world.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
That-
That's inspiring.
That's the key how to do it.
But yeah, man. Yeah, that was like an amazing conversation. I loved your insights. And this won't be the last for sure. We're going to pick your brain again.
Definitely.
Thanks so much for joining this
Thanks for
conversation.
indulging us.
Yeah,
Illac.
man.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Good conversation is really a symbol of where have we gone as Filipinos. So as we tackle this conversation, and then when we think of the larger historical journey, not only Magellan's journey but our journey, all the conversations and pieces that you talk about is where Quo Vadis Filipinas. Where are you going, Filipino? Where are you going, Philippines? It's both a challenge, but at the same time, we're so young. We're so young as a nation. Hopefully, the right people starts taking it, and that our resources will be used to make us a greater race after the next 500 years, and not the same after 500 years still squabbling. So
Sure,
thank you
man.
for giving time to talk about this.
Of course, man. No, really happy
course.
to have this conversation.
Thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time,
Thank
man.
you, man.
You're a busy guy right now. You have a lot of stuff. Grabe. But I mean, if you need help,
I'm also in shorts.
me too, bro.
We're all
Me
wearing
too.
shorts.
Dude, I'm in my undershirt from work. I came from
Never
Zambales
mind.
kanina.
Don't do it.
No, I won't. I'm not kidding.
I hate to see if your painting has that many colors. I hate to see the pattern in your in your sleeping shorts.
Basketball shorts, pare. Basketball shorts naman. Nahiya naman ako sa inyo.
Let's catch up. We just crossed our first 1,000 milestone, and we built the largest solar flag in the Philippines. We're aiming for 6,000, and then from 6,000 we start going abroad. So yeah, the proof is still here, but If you want me to send more stuff, updates, we would love to keep the story going. It's a Filipino story, man. It's a solar lights from home. I mean, it's a very Filipino movement. I mean, and also one of endurance, and one of clean tech. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully, it becomes viral. Hopefully, it becomes the Ice Bucket Challenge.
For sure, man. Hopefully, yeah. Wishing you all the best. But
give us time to tell our story. So we're very excited to have a means to be able to update you now and then, and your pet dragon behind you. So
yeah, yeah, man.
Definitely.
For
if
sure,
you
man.
Content, pare, send it over. We talk on WhatsApp, so just send it over, and I'd be happy to share. You know me.
Nice meeting you, man.
Thank you.
Have a good night. See you.
See you, man.
Bye, man.